Hello friends, good morning. Welcome back. Uh, Myself Pushkar Singh and we are going to start with our current affairs. So today you have 15th of May 2021. Alright. And these lectures are basically meant for those who are preparing for the civil services examination conducted by the UPSC. Alright. And for that purpose, you already have been studying the nation newspapers like the Hindu or Indian Express. Both of these newspapers are equally good. Okay, you can refer any of these newspapers. We are also referring these two national newspapers. And these lectures are basically uploaded on the YouTube on the day-to-day basis. So you can subscribe our channel on the YouTube for these lectures, and you can supplement your preparation with the help of these lectures. All right. So let's begin with the lecture. All right. So first news is about the Iron Dome system. It is basically an interceptor system, or it is basically a air defense system which is being developed by the Israel. Okay, the air defense system or aerial defense system, which is also known as the Iron Defense System, is very powerful defense system which intercept any aerial moving vehicles, whether it is the unmanned aerial moving vehicle or any aeroplane or any fighter craft, any rocket, any missile or anything which is aerial, right, or which is airbound. So it can successfully intercept that one, and it can successfully destroy in the air itself, right? So it is in the news because recently the Hamas have fired, right, thousands of the rockets from the Hamas, right, or from the Hamas controlled territory or from the Gaza Strip into the Israel. Okay, and this Israeli air defense system or Iron Dome system have successfully intercepted those rockets which are fired by the Hamas. Okay, so Iron Dome is basically the multi-mission system, right, which is having the capability of intercepting the rockets, the warplanes, right, any sort of a the mounting rockets, artillery, mortar, or anything, right, which is basically a short range. And it can also intercept some sort of a the vehicle aerial vehicles, like you have the helicopters, aircrafts, etc., right, over the range of 70 kilometers. Okay, and it is basically an all-weather system. All-weather system means it can be used in any weather, right, and it can engage also in the multiple targets, and it can be deployed either over the sea, over the land, or anywhere, right, wherever you have the threat over your territory. And the Iron Dome defense system is basically manufactured by the Rafael Advanced Defense System, which is the similar, the agency which is involved in the Rafael aircraft. Okay, and it has been the service with the Israeli Air Force since 2012, 2011, right? And the radar system which is basically used right here is developed by the ELTA. ELTA is also a company, and the development of this of this Iron Dome is basically prompted by the rockets which is being regularly fired by the Islamic terrorists, specifically on the Gaza Strip, right, which is led by the Hezbollah or the Hamas since 2000, right, on the Israel. So because of that, to protect the territories of Israel and to protect the Israeli citizens, this Iron Dome system was basically developed. Okay, now the Rafael Advanced Defense System, right? This is basically also known as Rafael. It's an Israeli defense, technology company, and it is founded by the Israel's National Research and Development Defense Laboratory. Okay, the main purpose of founding of this Rafael Advanced Defense System is basically to the development of the weapons and the military technologies within the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Okay, and the owner for this Rafael Advanced Defense System is definitely with the state of Israel, right? And it has been headquartered in the Haifa, Israel itself, right? And regarding ELTA, right? ELTA, I told you, the ELTA Systems Limited, or simple ELTA, is an Israeli provider of defense products, specifically the radars, right? And as well as other electronic warfare communication systems or ground-based systems, cyber products. And it has been also located in the Israel. So Ashdod is the place where its headquarters is located. So it is also provider of radar system or ground-based systems or warfare communication systems which have been provided to this Iron Dome system. Okay, and how does it work? So this Iron Dome system basically consisting of the three units. So it is consisting of, first of all, the battle management control unit. It is also having the detection and the tracking radar system, right? As third unit is basically consisting of the fire unit. The fire unit consisting of the three vertical launchers, and each of that would have 20 interceptor missiles each. Okay, these interceptor missiles use the proximity fuse to detonate right nearby your target, right wherever you have the target in the air. And this Iron Dome system can be deployed in the layered system, right, along with the David Sling aero missile defense system. I'll come to that, what is that. So it is generally deployed in the layered system or in the layered way with the David Sling aero missile defense system, right, which is also used to protect the medium and long range threats. The Iron Dome defense system is basically used to protect the aerial threats, which is originated up to 70 kilometers. But this David Sling and aero missile defense system, which can be protecting the area which is being threatened from anywhere from 40 kilometers to 300 kilometers in the range. So it is having the medium to long range threats. Okay, and such IDOM is mobile variant, right? That means you can easily move that the aerial defense system, right, and its components on the single track, right. And the Sea Dome is basically a naval version, right, which can be deployed on the ships also. They are the different versions which are in the use. So what is this David Sling aero missile defense system? That is something is new here. So David Sling means that it is to bolster the second tier of Israeli missile defense system. Israeli missile defense system is we know that it is Iron Dome system to give the second tier of the defense, right. We have developed this David Sling system, or David Sling and aero missile defense system. So David slings basically come from the biblical story of David and Goliath. So you can think of the multi-tiered missile defense system, and the Israel is basically behind of developing this multi-tiered missile defense system as a second tier, which is in the form of this in the form of this David slings. So again, it is having the operational range of more than 160 kilometers, and it is again developed by by the Israeli Defense Forces for the purpose of Israeli Defense Forces, and it is in service with the Israeli Defense Forces since 2017 onward. Okay, and it is very useful for the purpose of the second line of defense, which is also being used in the Israeli space agencies, right. So here you could see the pictorial depiction of the Iron Dome, where you have the three units. You have the three units. First is basically the missile firing unit. Second is battle management and control unit. The third is basically radar detection unit. So radar detection unit basically take care of any sort of aerial vehicle which is in the form of rocket, or any sort of a missiles which is coming into the radar of this radar detection unit. Once it detected, it basically alert this battle management and control, and then this will basically enable the missile firing unit to fire the missile to intercept this short range rocket which has been fired from the Gaza towards Israel. So it is how the Israel Iron Dome missile defense system used to work. Okay, next you have the Maler Kotla. The Maler Kotla is the newly created district in the Punjab. So recently the Punjab Chief Minister, right, have announced that it has created the new district, right, the Maler Kotla, which is being carved out from the existing the Sangrur district of the Punjab. So this Maler Kotla would be the state's only Muslim majority town, right, or only the Muslim majority district, right, which will be carved out from the Sangrur district, right. So this Maler Kotla will be the 23rd district of the state of Punjab, and it is basically adjoined with the Amargarh as well as the Ahmedgarh, which also become the part of your Maler Kotla district. Okay. Initially, the subdivisions of the Maler Kotla as well as the Ahmedgarh, as well as sub tehsils of the Amargarh will also initially were part of your newly created Maler Kotla district. But different process of bringing different villages under the jurisdiction of Maler Kotla district would be done later. That would be done after the conclusion of the census operation, which is due for the year of 2021. Okay, once the census will be completed, the process of bringing those villages into the jurisdiction of Malerkotla district would be done, right, on the papers. So here the Malerkotla, which will be the new district which will be created, and it is the first Muslim majority town which will be created out of the existing, existing district, which is known as basically your Sangru district. Okay. Next, the tribals in Odisha. As you know, the tribals comprises around 8% of the India's population. But you must understand, because of this COVID-19 pandemic, right? The COVID-19 infection or the corona infection is also swept, or also sweeping across the tribal populations also. Specifically, the vulnerable population, that is also known as the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, are also being reportedly been infected because of coronavirus. So as many as 21 tribals, right, individuals have been infected across 8 different, particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right, in the Odisha have been so tested positive. And among these 21 tribals which have been tested positive, this also includes the 2 people from the Bonda tribe, right, and which is basically generally will have some sort of a secluded and isolated lifestyle. Still, they are infected with the COVID-19 infections. So Bonda people lives in the highlands, right? That is around 3,500 feet above the mean sea level. So you can think of that, if the person is living around 3,500 feet above the mean sea level, still they have the secluded lifestyle and some sort of isolated lifestyle. Still, they are basically infected with the coronavirus infections, and they are mostly live in the Malkanagiri district of Orissa, which is the southernmost district of Orissa. Okay, let us understand about what is that particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So, as you know, that particularly vulnerable tribal group, this nomenclature came in 1973, when for that purpose a Debar commission, right, was being created. This Debar commission created for the primitive tribal groups as a, to create a separate category, right, who is lesser developed among the tribal groups. So in 2006, the government of India renamed this primitive tribal groups as a particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right, which is the lesser developed among the tribal groups. So this, particularly vulnerable tribal groups are some having the basic characters that you can think of, like they are mostly homogeneous, right? They have the smaller population. They are relatively physically isolated social institutions, right? And they have some sort of a absence in terms of written language, right? They use very relatively simple technology, and they have very slower rate of change, right? So in the context, you could think of in 1975, way back in 1975, the government of India initiated, to identify those particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So they have identified on that time 52 such groups. And in 1993, again, they have done this exercise, and again, next 23 groups they have added in that list. So total, you have 75 particularly vulnerable tribal groups. So total 75 numbers are basically there out of 705 scheduled tribes. So these numbers are basically signify that they are less developed among the tribal groups. So these 75 numbers are basically those tribal groups, right? And these tribal groups, if you see, right, the highest number of tribal groups are found in the Odisha. So out of 75, the Odisha consisting of the 13 numbers of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, followed by Andhra Pradesh, which is having the 12 in the number, followed by Bihar, right, which include 9, followed by Madhya Pradesh, which includes 7, followed by Tamil Nadu, which includes 6, and Kerala and Gujarat having 5, 5 each. Okay, the 4 members from the Dongria Kond community is also tested positive, which is also comes under the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, which have also tested positive, right, in the Raigada district of Odisha, right? So the Odisha is having, the highest number of the tribal groups which are considered or which are included in the particularly vulnerable tribal group. So it is Odisha having the among the largest and the most diverse tribal population in our country. And out of 62 tribal groups, right, in the Odisha, 13 such are recognized as a particularly vulnerable tribal groups. I'm talking in terms of Odisha. Odisha is followed by, Andhra Pradesh, which is having the 12 such particularly vulnerable tribal groups, and which is followed by Bihar, which is consisting of 9, which is followed by Madhya Pradesh, which is consisting of 7, which is followed by Tamil Nadu, which is consisting of 6, and then you have the Kerala and your Gujarat. Each having the 5 in the number. So you have basically your basically your 75 such groups are there. Okay, now you must understand this Bihar including your Jharkhand also, this Madhya Pradesh including your basically your Chhattisgarh also, because Chhattisgarh and the Bihar basically comes out of from these two major district out of their their demarcations, right? So here according to 2011 census, the Odisha share in terms of the country's total tribal population consisting of around 9%. So that means Odisha consisting of around 9% of the total tribal population of our country, right? If you see in the Odisha's demography or within Odisha itself, the tribal population or ST population consisting of around 22.85 percentage of the Odisha's population, right? So that means almost one fourth of the Odisha's population consisting of the tribal people. Okay, and these particularly vulnerable tribal groups that are 13 in the number in the state of Odisha, they are Bonda, Bihor, right? Chikutia, Benjua, right? Didai, Dongaria, Kanda, Hilkharia, Joang, Kutia Gond, right? Lengia, Sara, Lunda, Makrinda, Podi, Budian, and Saura. These are basically some of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups. The 13 or the highest number of particularly vulnerable tribal groups are found in Odisha. Okay, they have been found on the basis of certain identification for them. They have the stagnant or diminishing populations, they have subsistence level of economy. Okay, they are basically associated with the pre-agricultural stages of hunting. They are also involved in the food gathering, shifting, cultivation, relatively physical isolations, right? Simple technology, absence of written language, right? And some sort of a slower rate of change. They are all such characteristics of these particularly vulnerable tribal groups. Okay, you could see basically here, you know, the people which is standing with the sticks, they belongs to the particularly vulnerable tribal groups of Orissa. Okay, next the mice ring, which is found in the eastern Australia. So now what is happening is that I'll tell you the brief background. So what is happening is that specifically in the New South Wales, in the Australia, right, a mice rain is basically happening. So because of the exorbitant increasing in the population of the mice, right, the farmers are facing very difficulties because they are facing devastations from the mouse plague, right, which is affecting the farmers, community members, and the residents specifically in the New South Wales. Okay, now you must understand that as per the Victoria's the health department, it says that around 2200 species of the rodents are there, and Australia has more than 60 native rodent species, right? Now these rodents are capable of destroying the food grains, right? And they cause widespread damage to the domestic households, commercial businesses, as well as the farms, as well as the manufacturers and the livestock, right? So rodents can not only gnaw your material, but also they ruin the supplies of uh, by excreting on them. So rodents can also cause the diseases such as you have the leptospirosis or the typhus fever, and they can also carry some sort of a fleas or the ticks. They can harm basically pets as well as the humans also. So these rats and the mice, they can stay in the in the walls, ceilings, under your bathtubs or your cupboards, right? And in your thick vegetations under buildings or wherever they find the place, right? So they have made the way to the rural hospitals, even biting the patients also. This causing the plague to be erupted specifically in the New South Wales, right? And there is mouse related diseases also increasing in those areas. Okay, now the researchers specifically which are working in the controlling of this mice population, they said that you could increase the zinc phosphide, right, in the mouse weight. If you increase the zinc phosphide in the mouse weight, right, the farmers would be able to battle the lesser number of this mice population, right? As a result, the authorities have allowed, right, to double this toxicity level specifically in the mouse weights in terms of this zinc phosphide, right? And this is also very very important. So to control the plague, the government has now authorized to use this poison or this outlawed poison, which I told you that it is basically also important for the purpose of controlling this mice. So it is basically known as zinc phosphide. Zinc phosphide is basically can be put in the mouse bed to help the farmers to battle the higher than the average mouse numbers, specifically in the Eastern Australia. So current plague is one of the worst plague in the history of the Australia, and it has been started around the mid-March in the Australia's eastern states, right? And it is affecting, largest number of population, and sometimes these mice are so falling from the rooftops, and that is what we call it as the mice rain. Okay, researchers basically attribute this plague to the unusually abundant grain harvest, which is basically occurring in the Eastern Australia, right? And because of this surplus of this harvest, which is also the main reason of increasing the mice population in the Eastern Australia. So, what is that plague we are talking about? The plague is basically a disease that affects the humans and other mammals. It is caused by the bacterium that is known as Yernesia pestis, right? It is caused by the bacterium which is known as, your Yernesia Yersinia pestis. Okay, now humans usually get the plague after being bitten by the rodents, and that is carrying this plague bacterium which is known as the Yersinia, the pestis, and sometimes the animals also infected with the plague also. Okay, so the number of mouse which is increasing in the specifically in the Eastern Australia, because it has the highest number of the mouse populations, as well as the mice having the short breeding cycle. That is, a pair of the breeding mice can give the birth to the new litter every 21 days. You can think of, for every 21 days continuously they can reproduce the little mice, and that is how the number of mice have been increasing to manifold, specifically in the Eastern Australia, right? And the rodents, which include the rats and the mice, are the second most successful mammals on the planets after basically your humans. Okay, so here you could see basically the mice, how beautiful they are. Okay, next you have Anne Ratnasri. Anne Ratnasri was basically, she was a director of Nehru Planetarium, right? And she recently passed away, or she recently died because of the COVID complications. So Dr. Ratnasri was basically a notable member of the Astronomical Society of India, and she was the first chairperson of the Public Outreach and the Education Committee, which are set up by the Government of India in 2019 for the purpose of outreaching to the public, specifically for the scientific education. Okay, and one of the noted contribution which was made by Miss Ratnasri was basically the Astro Adda. The Astro Adda, which is something which is also known as the online discussion platform or online discussion forum, right, where the students and other scientific community member could come together and that they could discuss the astronomy related topics. So such type of discussions used to held in every fortnight. Okay, now what is this Nehru Planetarium? So Nehru Planetariums are basically consisting of the 5 planetariums which are located across the country, right, which are named after our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, and they are located in the different places. For example, they are located in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, New Delhi, Pune in Maharashtra, Bangalore in basically and they are also located in Prayagraj also. So Jawahar Planetarium in the Prayagraj, where the Nehru was born. So these are the 5 places: Mumbai, New Delhi, Pune, Bangalore, and Prayagraj. These are the 5 places where the Nehru Planetariums is basically located. Now, in Delhi, this Nehru Planetarium is located in New Delhi on the grounds of the Teen Murti Bhavan, which is also known as, the earlier official residence of our first Prime Minister, Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. Right now, this official residence have been converted into the museum in his memory, right? And now it is officially known as the Nehru Memorial Museum and Library, which is basically also known as the Nehru Planetarium in the today's context. Okay, so she is recently died because of COVID-19 complications. Okay, next you have red-eared slider. So red-eared slider is basically a cute American turtle. You could think of, they are basically the exotic species which are found in several places in our country. Now this cute American turtle have been found of threatening the native ecosystems wherever they are found in the water bodies. So they are now threatening the water bodies or natural water bodies across the northeast, because if they once get into the natural water system or natural ecosystem, they can consume the much of, they can consume the much of their, the food which is available over there, and the very less amount of food will be available to the other marine animals, and so that it will be very very, threatening for the other marine animals also. So you could think of that Northeast, which is a home of 21 of 29 vulnerable native Indian species of the freshwater turtles and the tortoise, right? Such freshwater species and the turtles are basically is in the danger because of this cute American turtle, which is known as the red-eared slider turtle, which is threatening those species. So in between August 2018 and June 2019, a team of the herpetologists, basically, from the NGO which is known as Help Earth, have been found these red earth sliders in the Deeper Bowl Wildlife Sanctuary, right? As well as, Urgata Temple Pond, which both are located in the Assam. The Deeper Bowl Wildlife Sanctuary is also, is a wetland, it's a famous wetland for the conservation. Now, regarding your the herpetologists are basically, they are the zoologists who studies the reptiles and the amphibians, right? Like you have the frogs, right? And they used to study those reptiles and the amphibians, and many herpetologists basically focus on the conservation of these species. Okay, so in that sense, what you can say that the herpetology is a branch of zoology, right, which is concerned with the study of amphibians and the reptiles, right? The words which are, some sort of also include in the category of reptilia, sometimes also excluded here, and such study is also exclusively done by the herpetologist in this sense. So this red ear slider that we talk basically, right, which derives its name from the red strips. These red strips are found basically around the part where the ear are located with the tortoise or with this turtle. So these red strips basically named, this turtle as a red eared slider. The slider basically came from the name that it can quickly slide off, right, inside the water body whenever it is located. So it has the ability to quickly slide off, right, into the water, and that basically makes the name as a slider species among the turtles, right? It is basically the native to the USA and northern Mexico. Now this turtle is extremely popular pet, and now it can, the flip side is that it can grow very fast, and it virtually leaves nothing for the native species to eat, and that is basically something, right? That is basically something, which is devastating to the natural ecosystem, specifically in those areas. And much of the Burmese python, right, that went to the US, that is the one case study you could think of, that, that basically damaged, right, the evergreen ecosystem, right? And that has already affected, if the red-eared slider species have already affected the Karnataka, Gujarat, where they have already found in the 33 natural water bodies, right? So if that invasive species is not prevented from being reached to, some of our pristine ecosystem like Brahmaputra and other ecosystem, right, it will be very very devastating to those ecosystem, because it is the home to more than 72% of the turtle in the tortoise species in our country, and all of them are very very rare. They are basically extinct of the devastation, because salt turtles basically used to eat everything whatever comes in the way. Okay, so this is basically the red ear, the turtles. Okay, next is elephant casualties on the railway lines. As you know that the man and or the human animal conflict is one of the biggest conflict nowadays we are facing, because of the anthropogenic imprints, because of our, the infrastructural development, specifically in those the forested areas. So one report says that the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate says that in between 2009-10 to 2020-21, 186 elephants have been killed because of, the because of hitting by the railway, because hitting by the trains on the tracks. So 186 elephant have been died because of the train. Now, among them, the highest number of casualties of the elephants have been reported on the railway tracks, have been reported in the state of Assam. So here, the Assam recorded 62 such casualties, followed by West Bengal 57, followed by Odisha 27, Uttar Pradesh just saw one death of the elephant. Okay, there are various measures which have been taken to avoid the elephant casualties on the railway lines. For example, a permanent coordination committee have been set up by the Ministry of Environment and Forest along with the Ministry of Railways to prevent such deaths of the elephants on the railway tracks. Right, the Ministry of Railways along with the Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change have started clearing the vegetation along the railway tracks so that the loco pilots could see, right, very clear view of the elephants which is passing across the tracks. And the Ministry of Railway also start setting up of this underpass, overpass, right, where the safe passes of those elephants can be done, right. And they have also started regulating the speeds from the sunset to the sunrise, specifically during, the peak time when these elephants used to migrate, specifically during the corridors, right. And there are also provision of regular patrolling of the personnel, specifically in the vulnerable stages of the railway tracks, right. These were some of the other initiatives which are started by the Ministry of Environment and Forest along with the Ministry of Railways. And Ministry of Environmental Forest and Climate Change have already released 212 crore rupees on the elephant range states, right, and which are basically the central sponsored schemes. Like you have the Project Elephant to protect the elephants, their habitats, their corridors, right, to address those humans and animal conflict, right, as well as to welfare the captive elephants which are there in those states. So here you could see the two elephants have died on the railway track because of the pollution from the train. Okay, next you have the Gaza. Gaza, is a basically a strip, right, which is located in the Palestine, or it is basically Palestine territory, right. Recently the Israel bombarded on the Gaza strip with the artillery and the airstrikes, right, as you know, because the Palestine or the Hamas have fired various rockets into the territory of Israel from basically the Gaza strip, and now in retaliation the Israel also fired, the artillery and the airstrikes on the Gaza, right, intensifying the conflict, and which basically claims more than 120 lives in the state of Israel. So Gaza Strip, simply you can say it's a Gaza. It's a self-governing, Palestine territory. So Gaza Strip is basically, you could see that it is basically all located on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, right, which is basically borders the Egypt on the southwest and Israel on the south, in the east and the north border. So here you could see that it is basically consisting of, the 11 kilometers, or you could say that borders Egypt on the southwest for around 11 kilometers and Israel on the east and north along 51 kilometers border, right. So this both Gaza and the West Bank, which are both claimed by the state of Palestine. Okay, and here you could see that the Gaza and the West Bank basically are claimed by both of these, the state of Palestine as well as, the Israel have also illegally occupied these territories, right. Both of these, the Gaza and the West Bank, are separated from each other by the Israeli territory, right, and both fell under the jurisdiction of the Palestine territory, right. And here, but you must understand, this Gaza Strip is being by default is being governed by the Hamas. Okay, the Hamas, which is a Palestine fundamentalist militant Islamic organization, which is also declared by many countries as the terrorist organization, right, which came into the power, right, in the last election, which was held in 2006, and continuously the Hamas, which is a Palestine fundamentalist militant Islamic organization, which is continuously in the power since last 15 years, right. And uh, and as you must understand, the Israel is supported by the US. Okay, so it has been placed under the Israel and US international economic and political boycott from that time onward when it has been set up. So the best bank that we are talking here, right, this best bank we are talking here is basically, it's a landlocked territory. So you could see here the landlocked territory, which could easily see that there is no water bodies over there. Okay, it is near the Mediterranean coast on the western side, right, and it is bordered by the Jordan. Here you could see, right, and the Dead Sea. You have the Dead Sea over the east, right, and it is also bordered by the Israel to the south. Here you could see to the south, and to the west here also Israel, right, as well as to the north. So both west, south, and north you have bounded by the Israel, and to the east you have bounded by the Jordan and the Dead Sea. Okay, and you must understand this is under the Israeli occupation since 1969, and this area is split into the Palestine Islands under the Partial Palestine National Authority, right? And you must understand that you have 167 such the Palestinian islands over there, or settlements, and you have 230 such Israeli settlements into the new system which is evolved over the period of the time in this West Bank region. The West Bank basically named after its location specifically when it's captured by the Jordan, right? Due to 1948 Arab-Israeli war, right, which is located on the west side of the Jordan River, right? If you could see the physical map, you could find out that this West Bank is located on the west side of the River Jordan, and this Jordan subsequently annexed this territory in 1950 and held it until 1967, right, when you have the 6 days war in 1967, and subsequently after 1967 it has been controlled by the Israel, okay, followed by the 6 day war. And subsequently you have the Oslo Accords, which was basically signed, as you know, about the Palestine Liberation Organization as well as between Israel, and that created some sort of a administrative districts, right, which is having the various levels of the Palestinian autonomies within the area. But still you have around 60% of the territory, right, which is still with the West Bank, right? And the West Bank also include the East Jerusalem also, which is having around the area of 6,000 square kilometer, plus you have some sort of a 220 square kilometer of the water body in the form of the Dead Sea, okay. And some population also belongs to here you have the community like Israeli settlements over there also there in the West Bank. You have some settlements like East Jerusalem, illegal settlements under the Israelis also they have settled their own population over there. And next is Homian Vorgogen. The Homian Vorgogen basically is an eminent Assam literature, and basically he was also the journalist. He recently died because of COVID-19 complications. So the Mr. Homan have worked around in the 11 novels, and he has also written the 4 non-fictions, and he has also won the Sahitya Akademi Award in 1978 for his the novel Pita Putra, and it was returned subsequently. The Sahitya Akademi was returned right back to the government of India, sorry, to the Sahitya Akademi, right, in the protest, right, because of the growing intolerance in India in 2015 itself. Okay, and he was serving also the editor-in-chief of the Assamese daily, the Naomi Batra, until his death. And he was also separated from his wife, the Nirupama Borgagan, which is also the most famous journalist at that point of the time. Okay, and he was basically the person who recently died because of COVID-19 complications. Then cyclone the Tokte. The cyclone Tokte was basically a deep depression over the Arabian Sea, and now it has been intensified close to the Lakshadweep, islands. Now it has been moving very, very closely, and it is considered to be very severe cyclonic storm that can reach the speeds up to 160 to 170 kilometers per hour, right? Even 175 kilometers per hour. So that will be classify them very, very severe cyclone as per the Indian Meteorological Department. Okay, now this cyclone may reach up to the coast of the Gujarat, right? At by the May of 18th, but it's not very sure, right? What will be the impact on the Gujarat coast, because it may also die down over the period of the time. Okay, but it could significantly intensify its cyclonic storm during the next 12 hours, and it is likely to be further intensified in the subsequent 24 hours, and it is reaching to subsequently to the Gujarat by moving to the north and northwestern side, as reported by the India's Meteorological Department. Okay, and the government of India, right, is working very closely with the governments of various states. Right, you have the Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Maharashtra by deploying this National Disaster Response Force in the case of any sort of a disaster mitigation process. Okay, so which is being also been one of the important steps which have been taken by the government of India proactively to prevent any sort of a disaster during such cyclones. So here the cyclonic storm that would be moving from Lakshadweep group of islands, it is moving towards all along your Arabian Sea, all along the western coast of India, and that could reach up to the Gujarat coast. So here you could see the cyclone can basically devastating specifically to the coastal regions. All right, so that's all for today. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself. We'll meet tomorrow for our next current affairs. Thank you.